I would like to start by wishing everyone a happy Independence Day. It's the 75th Independence Day that we are celebrating, and we feel incredibly proud about it. And on this occasion, we wish India to grow technologically in all aspects. Welcome to the final day of Epsilon 2022, the Internet Spectrum. I am Kirti Ekande, Women in Engineering Vice Chairperson at IEEE SIESGST, and your host for the enthralling and intriguing discussion today. We are overwhelmed with the response that we have received from both the days. Day one was a webinar where we got a detailed overview about blockchain security spectrum, and we know that what's the use of learning a concept if we can't apply it in real life. So on day two, we had a hands-on workshop by learning how we can launch and deploy our own crypto token. You can watch both the sessions on the YouTube channel of IEEE SISGST. We are here today for the panel discussion, Blocks for the Better World Blockchain, with our acclaimed speakers from different countries having exceptional knowledge in the field of blockchain and Web3's ecosystem. Now, let's welcome our panelists for today. We have with us Mr. Bruno Calabretta from Indonesia, who is one of our panelists. He is the founder at Aurora Coaching, a public speaker, and a Web3 consultant. He is eminent in biomedical engineering. His technical background and the experiences he had in his life gave him the right skills to approach the crypto world and to really help people and business fulfill their goals by coaching and mentoring them. Aurora Coaching is also one of our sponsors for Epsilon 2022. Welcome, sir. Our next panelist is Ms. Amala Bastian from United Kingdom. She holds a degree in Bachelor of Technology and a Master's in Business Administration and is currently working as the community manager of the award-winning platform Women in Blockchain Talks. She is leading the global community of women, bringing together, connecting, and promoting all groups that support women to get educated and grow in this new exciting space. She also talks about the role of women in blockchain and related decentralized applications. Welcome, ma'am. Up next is Mr. Srikar Garimella from India. He works as a senior consultant, leading the digital supply chain and sustainability portfolios at Tech Mahindra's blockchain business unit. He is responsible for driving blockchain solutions and defining strategy for enterprises, including large auto manufacturers, logistics providers, as well as government entities. An innovator at heart, Srikar is now expanding his portfolio by creating solutions on NFT, Web3, and Metaverse for various enterprises. Welcome, sir. Our next panelist is Ms. Rea Achalkar from United States of America. She has a dual qualification in linguistics and technology, a recent certification from Wharton in competitive strategy. She has worked in startups and large cap in healthcare, banking, education, automobile, airline, supply chain and logistics, technology industries across multiple geographies like India, USA, Germany, Australia. She also has entrepreneurship experience in bringing emerging tech such as blockchain, AI, IoT to real business use cases and is certified in blockchain technologies from MIT Sloan. She also broke the glass ceiling for blockchain adoption in e-gov use cases, namely property records. Ms. Ria is a speaker, a hackathon, a judge, a master thesis juror, a startup mentor, and advisor. Welcome, ma'am. Up next is Mr. Samuel Pang from Singapore. Over his 20 years experience, Samuel has worked in both MNCs and startups across banking, capital markets, Swift payments, and most recently, blockchain crypto. He currently heads the APAC business for Fortress, a digital assets custody, AS, and treasury management provider, while concurrently building a Web3 DeFi health startup. Samuel is a seasonal mentor at F10 Incubator and IIT Mumbai Eureka program. Welcome, sir. Our moderator for the discussion is Mr. Farooq Chisty from India. In 2017, he started a growth marketing agency, and within a year of launch, they were featured as one of the top five marketing agencies in Andhra Pradesh by Your Story. Post exit from the agency, he worked as the head of marketing from Digipy Fintech. For the past 2 years, he has fully transitioned into Web3 and co founded a GameFi project called Fund, for which he also won an honorary mention in Solana India Hackathon last November for the Play to Earn category. Welcome, sir. Thank you so much, everyone, for agreeing to be a part of this panel. So without any further ado, let's get started. Now I would like to hand over the further discussion to our moderator, Mr. Farooq. Sir, you may please take over the session. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Kirti, for that lovely introduction. So, first of all, like you said, happy Independence Day to everybody.
Happy
Uh,
Independence Day.
yeah, and uh, and let's get started. Right, I'm really excited to
Yeah,
towards this. All right, so the I mean, if so, there is some noise coming from one of these speakers panelists, and like if everybody could just mute themselves, please. Yeah, I think this is good. Yeah. All right. So, I'm just going to start with the basic, fundamental question around blockchain, right? Like, what are the principles that bind blockchain? What are the principles that make it exciting? What is this noise all about, right? So, Amala, why don't you just get started with this?
Yeah. Hello.
Hello.
Hello everyone. Hi Farooq. Thank you so
Yeah.
much for giving me the question. And happy Independence Day. I'm also from India. So I know you're my brothers and sisters. So happy Independence Day everyone. So yeah, your first question was like why this technology, right? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. What does it make it so exciting? What is the noise all about? Because we've been hearing nothing but blockchain over the last 2 years. And people in tech would relate to this. Not just tech, outside tech, even in fintech, even like somebody who's remotely in tech industry, right? Are all talking about blockchain. So, what are the basic principles of blockchain that bind this technology together, and what make it exciting for the future?
Okay, fine. Yeah, blockchain is a decentralized technology and is being built, operated, and owned by its users. And the principles which make excited is like there are three principles like decentralization, and and the blockchain is permissionless and is trustless, and the decentralization, like instead of the internet controlled by a centralized authority, the ownership gets distributed among its builders and users. That's an amazing thing about blockchain. And it is permissionless, like everyone, me, you, and every users has equal access to participate in web3, and no one gets excluded. That is one of the interesting thing about blockchain. And web3 is trustless, like it operates using economic mechanisms. So instead of relying on trusted third parties, it is a trustless technology. So I believe that these principles makes a blockchain most acceptable, and these are the principles behind web3 or blockchain.
Right, right, right. Thank you so much for that, Amla. Amla, you just mentioned something there. You just mentioned mechanisms, right? Consensus mechanisms. I'm adding consensus to that. But I'll take that question. I'll take that mechanisms part to Bruno. Bruno, why don't you just throw some light on the mechanisms behind the blockchain? What are we talk about this consensus mechanisms, on which blockchains are based on, right? What are they? Could you just expand on it? Throw some light on it.
Yes. Okay. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for having me here today. And of course, happy Independence Day to all of you guys that are celebrating. So this is a very important question because basically, understanding how a blockchain works, it's all behind, the protocol that a blockchain has. So when we are talking about what is a consensus algorithm, basically we want to understand what is that is making a blockchain as strong as it is. Every blockchain, as we know, it was created for a certain purpose. So of course, the mechanisms that are behind can be different according to which are the purpose of it. So we know that Bitcoin, for example, was created for allowing financial transaction. Then we know that there is Ethereum. Ethereum, it was like created as a supercomputer where you can build decentralized application on it. So its main purpose is not the one to exchange money like Ether, like it's happening, but this is not its main purpose. And then you have other blockchain like Solana, like Internet Computer Protocol. Each one of them, it's relying on its protocol. And this protocol is the one of consensus, that it's making sure that a consensus is reached between all the users of the network. Because as we know, one of the main core of the blockchain is that it's a peer-to-peer network. So this means that each one of us that is participating in this network, we have the same weight, we have the same value, and we want to reach an agreement every time that an information is written inside the blockchain. So there are different protocols that are being used. Of course, the most famous is the proof of work, that it's used by Bitcoin, and at the same by Ethereum still. In a little bit, they're going to switch to the proof of stake, that is another protocol. And then you have also like Solana, that they're using the proof of history. But what is the difference behind it? So basically, when you're talking about this protocol, you are talking about what is the agreement that need to be reached and in which way this agreement is going to be reached. For example, when you talk of proof of work, what is happening is that the user, they need to put some actual work in it to prove that they are real and to prove that the validation that they're about to validate, it's really, you know, making sure that all the previous one are real, they're there, they happened. So proof of work, it means that you have to put an actual work. And in fact, we have these actors in play that are called miners, that are using their computational power through machine hardware, like graphic card, and all different kind of equipment that are going to put this computational work to solve a mathematical problem, they call it. But basically, if we want to enter a little bit in technicality, they are solving these nonce, that it's basically a unique number that is associated to every block that every user has to solve. So this is just to don't enter too much in the technicality. When we talk about proof of stake, instead, it's different. Instead of putting some real work, what the actors in play are doing, they're putting in stake a certain amount of coin. And according to the amount of coin that they put in stake, what is happening is that they're going to be chosen in a random and deterministic way by the blockchain to validate a certain transaction or data that has been introduced inside the blockchain. And then just to talk about another one, we can talk about the proof of history that is used by Solana, that at the moment is having a great hype in the crypto community, that is much faster than all the other at the moment, is able to perform up to 50,000 transactions per second. Bitcoin is around 3.4 and Ethereum 15.20. So what is happening? What is making it so fast? So we said that every time that we have to validate a transaction, inside the proof of history, what is happening is that every transaction, when it is arriving and needs to be validated, it is like pegged with a timestamp. So that in this way, the blockchain already is giving to the validators the transaction that they have to validate. But instead, in the proof of stake, for example, the difference is that in the proof of stake, the validators can choose the transaction that they want to validate. And this is why it's making it still not fast enough, because the validator have the possibility to choose the higher transaction to validate because it's going to reward them the most. While instead with the proof of history, you are canceling this kind of concept because you just have to validate transaction one after the other, and you don't have the possibility to go and choose which one you want. So this is what is about the consensus. There are different mechanisms that are being used to make the blockchain faster, secure, and cheaper. But at the same time, the concept behind it's always the same, making sure that the transactions that are happening on that blockchain, the information that are written and stored on the blockchain are real and that nobody can tamper them, making sure at the same time that all the blocks are still the same and no one has altered them.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that elaborate answer.
Thank you.
So if Rea is facing an issue, I'll take the next question. Yes, Sam, you have something to say?
No, I'll just say that was a very nice and good lecture on his own by Bruno. Thank you for that. I'm learning quite a bit from you too.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Right. So Samuel, why don't I take the next question to you, right? Uh, so so all this is good, right? I mean, every new technology will obviously, will sound very exciting to various stakeholders who come at the very creamy layer, of any industry, right? Because they can adopt to it, they can imbibe it, they can invest in it, they have the resources, and that also has challenges with adoption at a at a mid level or at an entry level, right? Because I face a lot of issues when I had to pivot to Web3. That adoption wasn't easy, and and there was a lot of friction, right? So now imagine that kind of friction happening to a technology which is overwhelmed with, is filled with scams. Every day you see a tweet on Twitter is like an ad for Ledger, right? And that's a tweet that I read on Twitter. By the way, it's not original. So, how, like, what are the challenges for adoption of blockchain going forward? Like, what do you see, what do you think are the top three? Because obviously there are many. At a governance level, there are a lot of challenges that we come across, which are pretty straightforward. But what do you think? Because you come from banking, you come from finance, you work pretty close to people and policy makers, I presume. But what do you think in your head? Like, what do you think are the top challenges to adoption?
Right, right. First of all, thank you very much for giving me such a challenging big question.
You can simplify it.
I think this question begs a very multifaceted answer. I'll try to answer this from two angles. From the angle of the authorities, namely the government, the central authorities, the regulators, the monetary authorities such as central banks, and the other angle will be more from the public retail angle. Right. So first of all, from the CeFi, the centralized authorities such as governments or banks, I think the major challenge right now around the world, perhaps to even to a lot of more advanced economies, and that of course includes even the United States. Is trying to understand the regulators themselves, the governments. They are still trying to get a hold and understand what this blockchain technology, what this DLT is all about. And I can't blame them. We can't blame them. First of all, they are too busy, their everyday jobs. The central banks, they are too busy trying to get the whole economic mess of this world right now we're in just out of the mess. And their hands are full. So trying to understand a new technology that is changing, evolving every single day takes really a whole lot of resources. And typically take for example, in Singapore, the MAS, which is the central bank in Singapore, actually set up a separate team, I would say a dedicated team, just to understand what this blockchain is all about, how it's going to impact or complement the existing financial sector or the economy itself. And I understand India is doing likewise as well. So are the rest of Asian countries like Thailand, Japan, Korea, although each country perhaps takes a different approach. But again, I would say the major challenge when it comes to the authorities, governing bodies is number one, trying to understand what this is all about. Number two, understanding the CeFi will be perhaps much easier because it is very much similar to what the world we're living right now, the banking world and everything. CeFi, I'm referring to, say, the centralized crypto exchanges. So these are the ones. That would make it easier for the governing authorities to understand. But before they even got a hang of what CeFi is all about, there comes DeFi, and that just throws everybody out in a mess, because in the DeFi world, it totally contradicts what the governing authority is all about. It totally contradicts the world that we're living in, because we live in a world whereby there is one government that rules a country. There's one central bank that says how much your money is worth, right? And there's for a big country like India, you will have a governor of different states, right? And then the state will have to listen to whatever the governor dictates, right? But in a DeFi world, nobody takes an order from any single entity, not an organization, not a person. So how on earth is the central bank, a CeFi, going to regulate that? So that becomes a challenge, right? Of course, the other challenge, especially right now in the crypto winter, is that especially for the naysayers within the existing authorities, right, governing bodies, it gives them the extra excuse and the reason to say that, hey, look, blockchain crypto is not going to be working, especially crypto is going to be a scam. Look at the crypto winter. A lot of people have lost money. But I would say that that is actually a misnomer. That is a misunderstanding. I come from the financial banking markets. If you take a look just at the last 80, 100 years of banking, how many banks have been hacked? How many banks had folded, had gone down under because of one rogue trader? Take, for example, a 100-year-old Barings Bank went bust, I think back in 1996 because of one trader, right? Of course, if you, I'm old enough, most of you are very young. If you recall the 2008 global financial crisis, Lehman Brothers, Bastian, possibly a 100-year-old as well, they all went bust, right? So a lot of these things have been happening in the banking world, but it becomes so frequent that nobody even bats an eyelid when it happens again. But yet when it happens in crypto world, suddenly it becomes a big mega storm, But I think it is just an evolving phase that the blockchain world, the crypto world has to go through. And this is something that the centralized authorities, they need to understand. They are trying to keep in pace. And I do know that, take for example, here in Singapore, the authorities themselves are working its best with brilliant minds in the body itself to work together with the industry players to move along, to see how this new technology, blockchain, can actually help to boost the economy, not just within the country itself, but even cross-border with multiple countries, say between Singapore and India, even all the way to the States or to EU itself, right? So that's just my opinion on the centralized part. Now, on the other hand, on more so the DeFi part, which is more on the retail angle, I think I would say perhaps the top three challenges would be: number one, education. A lot of people still have this fear of the unknown, and it is our human nature, right? So especially, and coming from banking sector, ironically, I would say that the biggest challenge comes actually from the people who have been so entrenched in the TradeFi, the traditional finance world. Say, for example, the compliance officer. No offense to anybody who's a compliance officer. The bankers, right? I think because our mindset is so fixed, so entrenched in the traditional world, we're trying to figure out what on earth exactly is DeFi. We are so used to taking instruction and orders from a top-down approach, right? The CEO says something, and then the branch manager or department head follows it and regurgitate it down, and then we just do it what it does. I spent 13 years in the army. I understand how it is. But in the DeFi world, in the blockchain, it is bottoms up, right? So we will have everybody, let's say all of us here, to say that, hey, we want to do this, we agree to this or that. As long as 51% of us agree to that, the top will have to move ahead. And I think that is something that the world at large will have to try to understand what blockchain is all about. And education, that's number one. Number two will be access to this technology. A lot of people, because of lack of education, they think that, oh boy, blockchain is such a scary monster, right? And because it's so scary, I have no knowledge of that. I don't dare to get in, number one. Or if I want to get in, I do not know how to dip my toes in. Where should I go to, right? Should I go to like a bank? Is there a bank, physical bank branch where I can go in there, fill in some documents or open an account? It doesn't work that way, right? So I think that's number two challenge. And of course, the other thing is the trust, right? So Amala earlier mentioned one of the key criteria of blockchain is that it's trustless. Again, when I first entered blockchain crypto 4 years ago, I just thought blockchain helps people with trust, but it's called a trustless network. So by definition, trust and trustless, right? It sort of contradicts itself. But I think we have to kind of understand that when it says trustless, when it says trustless, basically means that there is no need for you to know that I'm really Samuel, right? There's no need for me to prove to you with my ID card that I'm really Samuel, right? There's going to be a computer coding, there's going to be a smart contracts without even me showing my face, showing you my passport, my birth cert, my blood group, and everything to show that I'm really Samuel Pang, right? So that is what it means by trustless. So I think from the retail angle, those are the major challenges. And of course, the other thing that plays a major part is the mainstream media. By that, I mean the newspapers, even the governments themselves. If everybody, the mainstream media, they are going to keep on harping on the fact that cryptocurrency and blockchain is a scam, and they keep on putting a magnifying glass on this scam, that scam, and how many people have lost money, instead of putting a magnifying glass on the likes of Ethereum, Solana, Bitcoin, Ripple, all this, and the utility behind all this, that it solves the payment pains that SWIFT had not been able to solve for the last 40 years, right? In terms of the high cost of payment cross-border, in terms of the inefficiency of cross-border payments, which takes 3 to 7 days for me to wire transfer my money, say, to you in India or in Germany or in the States. Blockchain, cryptocurrency solves it all in a matter of seconds at just the price of a quarter of a peanut. So, that has to be magnified instead of trying to magnify that, people have lost money to make police report. So I think education, getting to know it, overcoming the fear factor, and of course, the mainstream media all have a part to play to enable the retail market and also the centralized authorities to help to propagate this new technology into the next era. And I think the crypto winter that we are in right now is a very good platform to weed out all the bad players, to show who are the ones who are swimming naked, so that the good ones will remain. All right, so I think I've spoken too much. Hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah.
Samuel, you did great.
Bruno, now you have a competition in Samuel.
Samuel, I totally agree on everything that you just said. And if I can add just one last thing to give more emphasis to what you said, this is what we have to focus right now on: education, awareness.
Correct.
We have to make sure that people understand what is happening, because the media at the end, they're just going to write what is going to make them sell more paper. They don't care about the technology. And it's about us, people that are in this world, to make people more aware about what is happening and what is going to be the society changing that is going to happen. Because we are really part of a revolution, guys. If you think we are going to change the world, we are going to change the way, the base of our world right now. Because at the end, if you think, Samuel, right now, what people are doing, they're just following an hype. They're hearing that, crypto, you can make money right away. And this is what they are expecting, to make money in a day. And if this is not happening, then they start to scream, it's a scam, it's a scam, it's a scam. Because this is what the media put in their mind. You buy crypto only to make money right away. But crypto is not about this. Crypto is about facilitating transaction, having the possibility of communicating with people all over the world instantaneously, having the possibility of not depending on centralized party, and so to don't have a third party to rely on. We should rely only on software, algorithm. This is our certified trust party, that we don't have to, to go and dig who is, what is his track record, what they did in the past, if they're good or they're not. It's code, it's clear, it's pure. You cannot modify it. And this is the cool thing. Amazing. I totally agree with you, Samuel.
Thank you. Yep. And one last thing. I think cryptocurrency, or rather blockchain technology, essentially almost solved the issue of financial inclusivity that the banks have not been able to solve or refuse to solve for eons, right? So there are many people who are unbanked because they can't even afford to open a bank account. They are not business viable for banks to have them. But with crypto, it actually solves them. It actually brings all these unbanked or even the underbanked into the financial system. Take Cambodia, for example. The project Bakong is actually built just to help the Cambodians, most of them who do not own a bank account, but almost everybody owns a mobile phone. But with the project Bakong, which is the national project in Cambodia for on cryptocurrency, the main problem it's trying to solve is financial inclusivity, and that helps a lot of all these unbanked people who are not able to open a bank account to get involved in the financial system. When they get involved in the financial system, it helps them to improve the financial education. It also helps to generate the national economy itself. So that is a very good use case of crypto, and I think these are the news that the world needs to magnify. Back to you, Farooq.
All right. Awesome. Uh, Thank you. So now, right. So I think Ria is not here, so I'll just put Srikar on the spot here. So Srikar, I have a question that's right up your alley. Before I go to that question, right, I just want to ask a couple of questions, couple of blockchain-related questions to you. One being the emergence of layer twos, right, over the last 2-3 years, right? We are celebrating Independence Day, and we can all be proud. That Polygon, which is the brainchild of three Indians, right, is one of the pioneers in L2s right now. So, what's your take on L2s? Like, how do you think they are solving a problem that L1s could not for the last 3-4 years? And what is the issue that pertains over L1s that L2 is solving?
Right. And thanks a lot, Farooq, and happy Independence Day to everyone. Really glad to be here on this platform with you all. Now, to answer your question, actually ties very well into what Bruno had said, right, when he was talking about the various consensus mechanisms that go into building a blockchain network. Essentially, the best way to look at it is there are three main pillars around which any blockchain network would be built, right, which is scalability, which is transaction speed, which is security, scalability, and decentralization, right? So you're talking about these three pillars. Now, whenever you build a blockchain network, there is always a trade-off that happens between these three pillars, right? You only do 2 out of the 3. It's very difficult to achieve the 3, right? So one of the biggest issues that we've seen with something like a layer 1, for example, Ethereum, is the fact that when it comes to scalability, there have always been challenges, right? I think Bruno was also mentioning how long it takes to commit transactions on Ethereum, right? I think Bruno said 15 to 20 transactions per second, which is ridiculously slow, right? If you're comparing it to something like what MasterCard does, right? 60,000, 70,000 transactions a second. Now, to address that is where the entire layer 2 concept has come up, and that's why Polygon has done extremely well. And as Indians, Farooq, as you mentioned, right, it's something that we are all very proud of. Now, just to talk a little bit about the way that it works, right? Essentially, think about it as a layer built on top of the main Ethereum net, right? Which means that there is another layer where transactions can be processed, transactions can be committed, and they're all rolled up and then put as in the form of storage on the main Ethereum net, right? So essentially what you're looking to do over here is solve the issue of scalability, but you're also solving the issue of having high gas fee, right? Which is another reason why Ethereum hasn't been able to scale up. So there are, of course, other nitty-gritties that get involved when you're talking about layer 2. But essentially, this has essentially, brought about a way to build scalable public blockchain network and public blockchain applications.
Awesome. So now, just touching upon certain applications, that blockchain could be applied, could be adopted into, right? One such application or industry, I would say, is logistics, right? Because that's pretty straightforward. I mean, I would say, you could simply apply the blockchain principles to a logistics and have logistics industry, multiply its productivity by multiple times, right? And that adoption level is also, and that acceptance, I would say, is also pretty high in that industry because they understand, what the problem statements are and how blockchain could solve it, right? When compared to like an industry like fintech, which is very resistant to adopting it. So, Srikar, you've spent substantial time in logistics and supply chain yourself. So, what do you think? What do you think is the scope for blockchain to penetrate into this industry, and what are the applications look like?
Right. So, I mean, moving just beyond logistics, supply chain, I think, is a great example of blockchain. The beauty is you don't really need to get into cryptocurrencies to build a solution like this, right? I think, Samuel and Bruno were talking about, the need for education, right? The way that I look at it is if you look at blockchain as an engine, right? This engine can be put in a car. It can be put in a plane, of course, with modification. It can be put in a scooter. But the underlying principles are still the same, right? Which is there is a single source of truth. There is visibility across all participants. And there is security that it brings about. And this is where, especially in global supply chains, it is a phenomenal area to explore. And I've been very fortunate to get into that space. Now, to talk a little bit about it, most organizations that we see have a one up and one down visibility, which means that one level above me, one level below me, I have complete visibility of what is going on in the supply chain. But as we've seen through COVID and all of these other events that is happening, right, Suez Canal, all these different things, the disruptions in the supply chain actually happen below those layers, right? And organizations don't have that kind of visibility. I can give you a great example, which is vaccine distribution in itself, right? Now, we know that there are a lot of counterfeits that are coming into the ecosystem, and it's very, very difficult to tag, trace an SKU or a vial of vaccine across multiple participants. But who's responsible for the counterfeits coming in, right? At the end of the day, people are going and holding the pharma manufacturers by their neck and saying, hey, there is a cost that you need to pay in terms of compliance, in terms of whatever it is, right? And that is where enterprise grade blockchain technologies are really helping bring visibility, transparency across multiple parties in the ecosystem. Now, through the likes of visibility, what you're really getting is actionable insights, right? Where do I have, let's say, a higher stock of vaccines, right? Where is the wastage happening? Let's say in cold chain monitoring for logistic providers, where has the temperature control failed, which means that these vaccines are not viable anymore. So getting that level of visibility, getting those actionable insights is essentially how blockchain has revolutionized supply chain. And this also, minus some of these things, it's also affecting trade finance in a lot of different ways, right? So in India, we have regulators, RBI, and a bunch of banks who have formed a consortium for trade finance. So supply chain in blockchain is a very evolving space, and there's a lot happening. But yeah, I'll take a pause over here. Just to hand it back to you, Farooq.
Yeah, that makes sense. So my next question is to Amala. Amala, sorry to keep you holding for so long. So now, right? So there are multiple verticals within blockchain. There are multiple domains within blockchain. One such is DeFi, decentralized finance, like how Srikar just mentioned about trade finance. DeFi is one such space, right? That's boomed quite a bit, and also been susceptible to a lot of scams as well over the last 1 year, especially. So, Amla, like, what is DeFi? What is decentralized finance? Actually, expanded that for you to begin with. So, what is DeFi, and should we care about it? Is it going to be a big thing going forward?
I'm sorry, I can't hear a word. Sorry, I didn't.
Yeah, is that the same? Like do all others also have the same issue?
No, we're able.
Bruno, can you hear me? Okay. Amla, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
All right. Yeah. So what is DeFi? What is DeFi?
Oh, you asked me what is DeFi?
Yeah. What is DeFi? And and what do you think? Its prospects are going forward into the future.
Okay. Yeah, DeFi, decentralized finance. It's a system which uses cryptocurrency and blockchain technology to manage financial transactions. And this DeFi aims to democratize finance by replacing legacy centralized institutions with peer-to-peer relationships, which can provide a full spectrum of financial services from everyday banking, loans, and mortgages to complicated relationships and asset trading. And I think blockchain and cryptocurrency are the core technologies which enables this decentralized finance. And when we make a transaction in our conventional checking account, it is recorded in a private ledger, and this banking transaction history, which is owned and managed by a large financial institutions. But when by using blockchain, when blockchain is a decentralized technology, distributed public ledger, these financial transactions can be recorded in computer code, and that makes the DeFi more different and more enabled to everyone. And I think, and I totally believe that DeFi is one of the best application that ever had in blockchain, and it will rule. It is not here yeah, it is here, but the banks and central banks are like adopting it. It is in the initial stage of adopting decentralized finance, but as soon as possible, it will come into practice. Yes.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you so much, Amala.
Yeah, and may I add to that as well?
Please, yeah, sure.
Yeah. So I think just a quick one sentence on DeFi will be that it uproots the understanding of what the world is right now. So DeFi basically enables every single one of us, you and me, to own what we create. What we create can be, most of all, our data, our transaction history, our money behavior, financial behavior, our work patterns. All these are data that we create. We finally own that data, and we are able to create our own governance around the data, meaning we will be able to say who can see our data, who can use our data. And finally, the most important part is that we will be able to monetize our own data. So think about it. Right now, the banks, the telcos, the hospital, they make use of our data, our phone usage, our health data to make money, right? Either for medical research or to resell. But we are the owners of this data, but we are not a part of this monetization plan. So it doesn't sound very fair, isn't it? So DeFi, Web3 is going to help flip that around so that all of us will be part of this economy to make money out of that. An example of that will be the project that me and my team, we are diligently trying to build, which is called Sihat. I think in India and Pakistan, perhaps and of course in Malaysia and Singapore, Sihat means health. So what we're trying to do is that we're trying to build a DeFi Web3 health data protocol that enables everybody in the world, every single human entity, to own their own health data and to be monetized when any corporation, any party that want to use our data. So that is what we're striving to build. And of course, it is a very big challenge. And the challenge, going back to the question you asked me earlier on, Farooq, is the world trying to understand what DeFi is all about? Is the challenges coming from of all the centralized authorities in the world right now? So I think but again, totally agree with Amala. I think DeFi is the way forward. There's going to be a lot of headwinds, a lot of challenges, but I think the world, when it comes to understand what DeFi is all about, it will be the way forward because it enables everybody in this world to participate in the economy. It benefits everybody. It's not just going to make me rich, but it's going to make everybody equally financially savvy and to be financially included.
So just to add, yeah, go ahead.
Go, Srikar. Sorry, go for it.
Yeah, Srikar, go for it.
Sure. So I think Samuel brought up a very, very interesting point of Web3, which is consent, right? I think, user consent, control over my data is extremely important in this day and age, right? We're hearing a lot of ways in which our data is being mishandled without getting into too many details. And one project that I do want to mention is what is happening here in India, where Telecom Regulatory Authority of India has essentially set up a consent management application that touches anyone and everyone in India who has a mobile SIM, right? One of the biggest challenges that we see is that we get spam calls, right? And I'm sure participants who are listening in, us panel members, we would have probably gotten a spam call while we are on this conversation right now. It happens so much, right? And this is where people just misuse our consent, right? We would have given our phone number for something else, but these guys have sold our data and, are now pinging us nonstop. So this is something that's gone live in India. It's production grade, and it essentially records consent at a granular level to say that, hey, I only want calls from, let's say, a certain telemarketer, and I will only get those communications, right? And being able to enforce that rules also is a big part of what something like Web3 would be able to offer. But I think, Samuel, that is a very, very important point, right? Which is the ability for consent and the ability for participants to monetize their own data.
Nice.
I wanted to add one thing to this concept that I think.
Yeah, Bruno, you can finish it. Yeah, please finish it.
Okay. All this concept about DeFi, Web3 and data, like to make another real example that it connects also to what Samuel said before, that basically right now with crypto blockchain, what we are trying to make is to have a redistribution of wealth, to make sure that We don't have anymore, a third world country, a second world country, and a first class country, but we are all equal. Like, try to imagine, for example, let's make the example with America. You go to ask for a mortgage. What is happening is that the person in front of you is going to decide if you are going to get that mortgage according to the color of your skin, according to your religion, according if he likes you or not, only in the moment he sees you. Try to imagine instead you are going to a DeFi platform where you can show what is your liability, how you are handling your transaction, how you are handling your money. And then it's not going to be a person that is going to decide if you are black, yellow, or white, if you get a mortgage. But you get a mortgage according if you are a good payer, according of how much debt you have. And it's going to be a smart contract that is going to make this decision. And this is the revolution. And this is the way in which we are really going to get that redistribution of wealth that is necessary right now, because it's not that country like India, Malaysia, Southeast Asia, South America, Africa are staying behind because they don't have the capacity. It's only something that happened because in the moment we switch from being backed by gold or being backed by the US dollar, who had more gold find themselves in the winning position. Who had other, minerals like copper, silver, or wherever, they find themselves on the wrong side of the winning team. And this is what made the world as it is right now. And we can change it. Sometimes when you hear people like us speaking, people can think they are, utopistic, they are believer, they are socialist, they are this, they are that, they are going to label us because we think in a different way and we think, that the revolution is possible. So we should continue to push these ideas. Sorry, guys. Let's go.
Amazing, Bruno. Amazing. Your quotes are
Makes
really
sense.
amazing. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so
So
much.
thank you so much for that.
Yeah.
Bruno, Amala, you had a point?
No, I was thinking
Um,
like this technology, this blockchain
Yeah.
or Web3 or this DeFi is always help to promote diversity and inclusion. That's the main thing. Everyone can be connected without the background of any when you are
Yeah, I
from
mean, look
any.
at us. Look at this session itself, right?
Yes, yeah, the diversity which brings everyone closer, in regardless of like gender, age, background, nationality. Everyone can be connected in this Web3 world without any like in the we can't be we can't like any no one can push us back to assess this technology, and we can be honest. That is the main positive thing about this technology. I'm so excited to embrace this technology.
All right. So my question
Um,
is to
I
Ria. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I had a couple of thoughts on decentralized finance and consent. Really, I think it goes to addressing a larger problem. What everybody touched on, Bruno as well, about how each individual can be in control of their data, about how each individual can be informed when their data is accessed. I think it spreads beyond just decentralized finance, just the finance or the FinServ industry. That is a great, how do you say, example that the industry is setting, but it will percolate into other industries as well, into healthcare, for example, into law and order, for example. My health data, look at it this way, right? Let's not just say that advertising is bad. Advertising generates revenues, right, for brands, for promotions, things like that. Healthcare data generates data for assessing how medications are useful. We've seen it all in COVID time. Which populations, which demographic is responding to which sort of treatments and what's happening, and that data is then reutilized to build better medicines, better vaccines. So data is important. Yeah, so we cannot ignore that fact. At the same time, we want to ensure that the privacy of the individuals are held extremely, extremely, extremely sacred. So if it is my healthcare data, I wouldn't mind the personal identifying information being scrubbed off, and then somebody accessing that, a female age between, let's say, 35 and 45, COVID vaccine in this date, and I'm becoming a part of some demographic, some statistic. At the same time, if I am happen to travel out of city, and I'm unwell and I happen to go to a doctor, my data should be able to be accessed not just directly and straightforward, but let's say they scan a QR code or my ID card, and I get notified on my phone that your data, there's request for access for your data, and then I hit OK, and all of this information basically gets tracked on the blockchain. So it's not just in finance. I know we're talking about FinServ, but I think it will be a great example that it's setting for a lot of other industries, and very critical. I can't stress often enough for life sciences industry, where we want to make sure that the clinical trial data, all the healthcare data, is not manipulated, is not fudged, is real time, and is available when needed. Imagine you don't have to carry all of your medical records everywhere you go, even on vacation, right? You should be able to access it really quickly and easily. In the States, I've seen that medical record EMRs and EHRs hold all the data, and you need to sign a release. It's a manual process and it takes forever if you want to give your medical data from one doctor to, let's say, to another doctor or to another country if you're happening to go there for vacation. So it will ease off a lot of nightmares, but consent, I think, is by far, for me personally, the biggest value that blockchain technology brings. It goes in and empowers every single individual, and the same happens for advertisements as well. OTT platforms, Netflix, and so on. We can choose, individuals can choose what kind of ads are relevant to them, right? I would love to see, what are the new movies that are coming up, what is Marvel series up to next. So that those things, or certain products or technology, I would love to get ads on those things. And so this is a great way, providing consent and not being spammed and fished about, I think is one of the greatest benefits.
Absolutely. Yeah, I completely agree. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Rea. Guys, so we are running short of time here, and there are a couple of questions that I want to ask. Since we are addressing in a college environment and the audience is pretty much students, so I think we have to address two questions here, because we hardly have any time left before we take on Q&A. So I'll start with Bruno on this question. So Bruno, you actually emphasized on the education part in one of the panelists' answers, right? You stress upon education, and from whatever that I've been hearing, from whatever that I've been observing on Twitter, on Discords, on various forums and Twitter Spaces, there is this one emphasis and one commonality across all Web3 thought leaders, which is that they want to educate their customer first, and then sell them the product or service, which is, I think, is a very good development, which is, I think, is a very good thought process. For that, I think the seeds have to be sowed at the very beginning, at the very initial stages, right? Starting with college. What do you think should students, like, let's say, organizers of this particular event, or college students who are just ready to pass out, get a job, should think, or rather should have an idea about blockchain? What should they think? Like, should they even consider blockchain, having a blockchain based course in their academy, or having done an internship, or like creating some proof of work in this space? Should they even care about this for now, at least in this market? Now, the follow-up question, the reason I ask is, not everything has to be on the blockchain. That's also another discussion that's been popping out, right? If you can solve it, in the traditional ways, it's all better. It's all about solving problems, right? So now, Bruno, like, what do you think? Like, should students like 16, 17-year-olds, should they start developing this this acumen for blockchain, this interest for blockchain at this very level and noise and intensity at which
Yes.
at which it's been shouted across the ecosystem?
My answer is a straight yes, because this is the moment. Right now, if you think, we are in a moment in our world where everything is changing. Sometimes I hear people saying, oh, we are too late in crypto, we are too late in blockchain. And the example that I make is this. Oh, it's like thinking that you are late in the internet if we were in 1999, because this is the stage where we are right now. Guys, we are at the stage where we are scratching the surface, and we are seeing so much potential that is coming out. I know that already a lot of countries around the world are making studying of blockchain the core. For example, I'm living in Indonesia right now, in Bali, and Indonesia is one of the countries that is making blockchain one of the core for their student to go through this technology and understand how it works. But the same thing in America or even in Europe, not everywhere, because they're still a little bit traditionalist, and they have so much push from the BCE to don't think about this, that is a scam. But basically, what you're seeing is that people, especially young generation, are starting to do the research on their own. So they don't care anymore about going to university and learning there what is blockchain, because if you think information are available everywhere, this is the beautiful thing right now. We have so many means of communication that we can do leverage on them and catch the information that we want. And this is exactly what young generation are already doing. They are understanding what is the potential behind it. You said before that a lot of business right now are trying to educate their customer about blockchain. What I think is that business first should educate themselves about this business, about this world, because they don't know what it is. I'm working with business as a consultant, with business that wants to embrace NFT world, metaverse, but most of the time they do it only because they want to monetize out of applying a label on their product where it's written crypto, blockchain, NFT, metaverse, just to get an hype out of it. And then they pretend that they want to educate their customer, when I think that instead they should educate themselves first, because most of the time they don't even know what is that they're trying to do. As you said correctly, for a lot of things, you don't need Web3. There is a lot of things that can be done without Web3 still in a Web2, and most of the time even in a Web1 way of working. You just need a page where you're advertising what are your services and people are calling you and buying it. But it's important for a new generation, especially for college people, especially, if you come from a technical background like engineering or something related, with internet technology, IoT, or wherever is technical. I think it's very important to learn about blockchain, because this is going to be the technology around which all the future is going to be built around. Everything will be relying on blockchain. As the example that Rea make, about storing your data, your medical data on a blockchain, and you're traveling around the world, you're sick, you don't speak the language, you go to a doctor, and you don't need to tell him what you are allergic with, what is your your medical background, anything. They can just scan it. They receive the proof from you to see your data, and they have already all your background. The same thing for vaccine, for pharmaceutical, for tracking information. Everything can be stored on chain. Of course, there is still a lot of work to do. We are still building the infrastructure. Probably us, all of us that are here on the talk, we are not going to see the real benefit that blockchain will bring, because we are going to build the infrastructure. We are going to build the basic for all the young kids that are 14, 13, 12 right now, are really going to take the benefit out of what we are creating right now. And as also Srikar said before correctly, when you are driving a car or when you are using your iPhone, you don't want to know how the capacitor inside is working or how the engine is working. You're just using it, no? But right now, education is important for awareness, for making people understand what it is that we are doing, because otherwise the amount of fake information or misleading information that are going to be spread are going to be more than the real information that are around. And that's why, of course, at some point, people will not need to know how blockchain is working, and they're just going to use it in the same way they're using their computer, their phone, their car, or they take a plane. But right now, it's important to spread education, knowledge, education, wherever is connected to this environment, for mostly make people understand what is this technology about and what is the disruption that is going to bring. So again, the answer is yes, educate.
Yeah. So, yeah. So where do students start? So where do they start? Like where does one start? Because when I began my my learning into Web3, it was really hard for me to to pick a starting point, right? Because it's really hard because there's a lot of information, unfiltered information out there, and abundant information, by the way. But I could not figure out where to start. Like, what are the basic fundamentals that I have to cover first before I could take that leap into building something or developing a project or whatever? Like, hooking up with a co-founder to build something, whatever. Right? So I think that starting point is something is going to clear the air for a lot of students who are listening in this audience.
One thing that I will suggest that I think is good is to grow a community, participate to event community, join other people that are talking about this. Because if you're just going on internet and Googling blockchain, crypto, because this world was made by, allow me the term, nerds, what is happening is that they are using only technical work. So it's going to be difficult for understanding. If you don't have a technical background, you go and read what is a blockchain. After 2 minutes of reading, you're going to be, I'm having an headache. I don't even want to continue this page. And this is happening. While instead, if you create a community, go to event, spend time with people that are passionate about this, difficult concepts are going to become easy. Like me, for example, right now here in Bali, I'm one of the organizers of the Bali Crypto Week. That is going to be 10 days of event for sponsorizing and promote awareness around the island and to bring Web2 people to Web3. So the idea is to make difficult concepts like blockchain, crypto, NFT, DAO, smart contract, DeFi, whatever you want to put in it, the point is to make this concept easy, accessible to others. And you can do it only if you grow a community around yourself, if you try to surround yourself with like-minded people. And the beautiful thing, I think, of this world is that we are all so passionate about it that we can't wait to share our passion with others. If someone is coming to me and is asking me what is a blockchain, I'm going to give him a pitch elevator in 2 minutes. Like, I have people around me sometimes they're telling me, I don't know how it's possible. Some people speak with you after 2 minutes, you're already talking about blockchain and crypto. Because I think it's cool to educate people, to talk about this and, to demystify this world. So this is my suggestion.
Yeah, I totally agree with Bruno.
Rea, you want to add anything to that?
Yes, certainly. I think building on what Bruno suggested, I think looking up what is happening around, being in touch with, how the world is changing, who's making strides in what spaces, and also not only looking at, what are the success stories, but also keeping track of what did not work so well, which are not really the forefront of the use cases, right? There was once somebody who I think they invested a good 30 million or some, and let me not take names here, but 30 million US dollars to put in a device, an IoT device in the vehicle's, engine to measure how the driver is driving the car, the vehicle, how often they're braking. And based on the data they get that's put on the blockchain, the insurance companies can determine whether this person has good driving history and therefore the premium should be lower or not. I think it's great, but I'm not so sure that that's one of the front line of the cases. It doesn't impact the whole demographic. So look at what is it a problem that can be solved on a universal level, whether it's a senior citizen, a child, a student, a pedestrian. Think about something about, how can blockchain help make our streets safer? How can blockchain help our health economy? How can we, next time some situation like COVID occurs, how can we be better prepared? How can we manage data and get meaningful data from clean data, not garbage? Looking at it that way. So just read a lot. There's a lot of information online. I think we've never been exposed to information ever before the way we are today. It's just too much of information, even on one hand. But if you follow, and it's very easy to find out which the good threads are, follow certain threads on so many resources. There's so many courses now available online. I think once you cover the basics of what the technology is, what problems it solves, what benefits there are, and also what the limitations are, it's easy to then look at and filter all the news and information that one gets, and then evaluate, okay, this is an aspect of this whole spectrum of blockchain. This is something that I'm interested in, and then dive deeper into that particular aspect. And then, of course, there are so many institutions that offer, incredibly curated teachings, right? So where I went, MIT Sloan or anywhere else that also offer, there are courses online that aren't necessarily, paid. Students can also do an audit track course. So that's one way to do it. So for people who need a more focused learning, I would say sign up for the audit track courses. There's no investment. Figure out if this is something that you're interested in. Otherwise, then if you are somebody who likes to explore, right, like kind of like a tourist, do you take a map, you get into a city and then look at the map and see what interests you, or do you want a guided tour? So based on your characteristic and your preference, you can figure out which way is the best learning way for you. But at all times, yes, building a community is essential. Being part of a community is essential. Staying up to date with what's happening in the industry is absolutely essential, no matter which route you take.
So I just want to add over here,
Yeah.
Rea, I maybe disagree a little on the usage-based insurance case. And this is because I think it solves other problems, right? For example, second-hand market where you're identifying lemons or getting the state of health of a battery to promote circular economy. So I think there are additional use cases you can build on top of that, but maybe we can take that discussion offline.
Of course. That was, yes.
Yeah. So anyways, coming back to, what I think college students should be focusing on. And Farooq, you mentioned 16 to 18-year-olds. I think in the future, there will be other technology elements that will be integrated to a blockchain network, right? Ria mentioned about clean data sets that are there, right? Now, how do you use that insights that you get to build, data monetization layers or AI/ML models to get understanding of, let's say, forecasting models, right? So that is also something that I think, students should focus on, which is not be too specifically, look at one technology, be married to that technology, right? They should explore. I think, the future is all about integration, right? Integration of IoT sensors also is very important. So it's about getting that broad base first. And then eventually you'll find a specialization, right? That we're not in any hurry. We can always pivot whenever we want. That's the world that we live in right now.
Of course.
If I can,
Yeah. Bruno,
I would like to suggest something. Considering we are 5 here, maybe each one of us can suggest one book to read or something that can be interesting to read for a 16, 18 years old that is starting this world and want to understand it. So I'm going to start. My suggestion is The Bitcoin Standard. Josefedin Amus, I think, is a very great book to start. You have a good background on what is the history of money and how we arrive to Bitcoin. So this is my suggestion, as a good way to start.
Yeah.
I can go next, but go on.
Okay, no
Come
problem.
on, guys, let's make it easy for this
So
college
there is
student to enter.
So there is this, A to Z guide. See, by the way, I'm not a book reader, so kudos to you. All power to people who read books. I don't read books, but there is this one A to Z guide that my developer friend, shared with me, which he found on GitHub. I have it right in front of my screen. It's called Token Economy by Shaman. Yeah, by Shaman. Right. So, yeah, Shaman. Yeah.
So
Shaman
guys,
Washinger, right? So I think I'll just drop the name in the chat. But that basically, I went to that entire guide. It was like a 300-page guide, and it was riveting because the way a tokenomics could actually be integrated into a business, right, and could be used as a customer acquisition vehicle was something that I could not realize, would possible, in a traditional system. When I read through certain tokenomics examples that were mentioned in that particular guide, it was really, I mean, my business model could actually be derived from that particular book, you could say. But anyway, I'll just drop the name to that particular book in the chat. You can find that on Amazon, or you can get it through some torrent file somewhere. All right, next, yeah. Srikar, you may answer that question.
Yeah, I want to add something to what Bruno said earlier. Like, I was a student last year. I joined, I came to blockchain last 2021. So I'm new here, but I taught myself what blockchain is, what NFT is, what metaverse is. So my tip to students is think like blockchain and educate yourself. And one more, Bruno said, join in a community. I joined a community. I learned from the community a lot, and now I'm leading the global community where I joined. So that's the difference. I learned from them. Now I'm leading the global community. That's what my experience is. So
Nice.
I want to say to you, my dear friends, my dear friends, think like blockchain. Update yourself by joining communities or workshop or anything which is online, because there are lot of free stuffs around in all the social medias. You can learn from them. And my suggestion from the books part is, I read a book which is really influential to me, like non 25 non-technical applications of blockchain by Daniel Drescher. Yeah, you can read that. Thank you.
I'll go next then.
Yeah,
Just like you, Farooq, I prefer to learn on the job than to read a book. So I don't have a specific book to recommend. But what I do like to suggest to all the audience here is, because blockchain essentially is trying to solve real world problems, first and foremost, the financial problems. So perhaps I would start by suggesting try to understand what the current financial market is about, what the Bretton Woods, which is when the US dollar depegged from the gold standard back in 1970s, how it has in fact impacted the fiat currency, fiat meaning the US dollar, the Indian rupees, the whatever currencies the world is using right now, and try to understand that. And so that when people say that, hey, Bitcoin is backed by nothing, then I typically tend to ask them back the question, what do you think the Indian rupee is backed by, or the Singapore dollar is backed by? Just the words of the government, isn't it? It's not backed like $1 million to 1 bar of gold. After the Bretton Woods, it's no longer. So it's the same argument. So try to understand that. And then when we try to build a project on blockchain, my suggestion will always be ensure that you're trying to solve a real world problem. Don't try to create a blockchain crypto project just because it is in vogue right now, because it is the flavor of the month of the year. It's not going to work, because when something like crypto winter happens, as it is right now, if you do not have a good fundamental, if you don't have a real world problem to solve, people will just leave, right? So go for the real world problems. The bigger the problem, the better will be your potential project. Yes, you'll face lots of headwinds, you'll face lots of problems, but I think it also weeds out a lot of people who are trying to enter into the arena, because it will be too easy for a lot of scammers to enter. But when you have a real problem to solve, it is hard to solve, and scammers will be away. And lastly, I want to encourage a lot of ladies, a lot of women. I met with a lot of people in the blockchain crypto world. And some of the most amazing people are really female, and I take my hats off them. In the past, I engaged in gaming sector, and I thought gaming is all about guys and boys. But when I met the real winners in the gaming, I'm amazed. The lady gamers, they are professional doctors, dentists, pharmacists. They are real-time, full-time jobs, and they win medals in gaming. They become DJs in gaming. If they didn't make it in gaming, they can go back to their professional jobs. A lot of guys I met, they're just full-time gamers. If they didn't make it, I wonder, what can they fall back on? Of course, I didn't talk to enough gamers to make that fair statement. But what I'm trying to say is I really want to encourage the ladies, the female, especially in the computing world, in the blockchain world, in the banking world, in the engineering world. Please do not be afraid to ask questions. I come from banking world. In the banking world, again, no offense to all bankers, but you're offended. I'm not sorry about that. Bankers just always love to put on a facade as if I know better than you, I'm better than you. But in the crypto world, just put yourself into any blockchain conference, crypto community, and be not afraid to ask questions, just as Amala said. You will learn a lot of things. People are willing to share. Just look at Bruno, asking one question to give you 10 minutes of lecture, which is great. I love that. Right? And look at Srikar, I'm sure Srikar is possibly half my age, but the amazing, I mean, the amount of knowledge you have in blockchain with regards to supply chain and everything is amazing. I can learn so much from you. So do not be afraid to ask questions, like Rea in healthcare as well. You know, even Farooq, entrepreneur, 18 years old, and despite not reading that much books, you're an entrepreneur, successful one. You know, so
maybe that's why I'm not.
yeah. So do not be afraid. Just go for it. Go and ask questions. Ask some questions. Let the other party talk for 5 minutes, and when you go to the next person, repeat what the first person said, and then you become an expert by the third person you talk to. That's what I want to say.
Yes.
Yeah, I think on the point that you made about women, I think women are the in the sanity to the insanity that's happening on crypto Twitter right now. So they actually bring the sanity to this entire discussion, which we pretty much need, because the regions that are almost have taken over Twitter right now for the last 1 year. So guys, we have 5 more minutes to go, and I just want to open it up to all the panelists over here. So, and have one specific question to ask, because you guys are all from the crypto space, and obviously you would have invested your valuable assets, your hard-earned money into crypto, and now we have a lot of 17-year-olds, 16-year-olds, 18-year-olds watching this. Sorry, in fact, 18, 19, 20-year-olds watching this. So, what's your advice to these students over here, and how they should invest their money, where they should invest their money? Because there are a lot of noise again. We come back to that word, and a lot of hype around making a quick buck on the side, right? Through these apps that are constantly bombarded on their Play Store ads or YouTube ads or whatever. So these guys are vulnerable and susceptible to scams and frauds, and they have all the money earned either through some petty jobs, some internships on their side, or the pocket money that the parents give them, right? Now they want to maximize that into something that could make them afford the next iPhone 14. Now that's not possible in crypto, by the way. But there is an assumption. There is a what do you call? There is a false assumption out there that is possible in crypto space. And for the ones like us, we've gone through that phase where we've made substantial returns through Dogecoin, which I did, by the way. I just got out the night before the SNL. So just so I'm letting you know. But that's not possible. That comes once every 2-3 years, or maybe 4 years. You don't know. So what's your take? Like, how should these guys invest their money going forward in crypto? What happens in the months, when they go about investing or buying some crypto on a Uniswap or a Binance or whatever? Like, what should they keep in mind, and how should they invest their money?
We go back to the same answer of before. They have to educate themselves. Otherwise, it's like going to the casino and bet on red or black, and then you hope that your choice is gonna be the winning one. Basically, it's all about their experience, what they love, what they like, what they are passionate about, and according to this, they can decide where to put their money. Because I think none of us here is a financial advisor, so we cannot tell you buy this, buy that, or at least me not. I cannot tell you. But I think that you should spend your money first to educate yourself, and then start to invest.
Rea, before you answer that, my take is, So my take on that is, Bruno, I think the reason that I would encourage students or 17-year-olds, 16-year-olds to start investing in crypto right now is because unless you are invested into something, unless you have that skin in the game, you won't take it seriously. You won't take that space so seriously. Like, after I invested my first 10,000 INR in Ethereum, in Ripple, back in 2017, that's when I started exploring blockchain for the first time. Or else I wouldn't have bothered about blockchain at all. So I think that was my point. But anyway, you had about it. Please go on.
Yeah. I think, yes, we are not financial advisors. That's the disclaimer, of course. But then the same common sense should prevail for crypto. Why not, right? The same as trading with the stock market. One has to research the company. One has to research what it is about, what they're planning to do, research the history, what milestones they've met, what the future roadmap looks like. And also think a little bit about whatever it is that they're building, a solution that they're building. what would be the acceptance of that solution, right? Is this the right time for the solution, the need, the market acceptance? Who else is there in that competitive space? So the typical due diligence one might do for any sort of investment, I think that same thing should prevail here. Why not? One thing I would though suggest is not to fall for scams where people say, "Hey, give me the money and I'll buy you crypto and let me store it for you, or I'll put it on a little USB kind of thing and you can, carry it around in your pocket." I would suggest not to do that. Trust some of these online exchanges. There's so many, right? There's Coinbase and DCX, CoinDCX, and so many of them. Let them manage in the beginning. At least start small. Start with an amount, exactly like going to a casino, eh, Bruno? Start with I think my daring is just for about $100 every time. That's all I start with. So start with an amount that you can throw away and you wouldn't feel bad that if you were to lose it. Start with that, diversify, see how it goes. Learn while are working on this, and at the same time look at how even these online exchanges work in the background. Try and see how they work. Binance, for example, has a slightly different way of working. They use their own token to pay for the transaction fees, which I think is brilliant, right? So would I invest in Binance? Probably yes. So think about things like that. What are all these spaces? And again, what I said before, stay up to date, stay current on what problems, what applications are being built. I think it's not just about somebody coming up with a grand launch, right? A token launch and there's free giveaways and all of that. That's not enough. It's critical to see what sort of applications are going to be built using that particular, blockchain, that token, and so on. Ethereum is widely popular because of all the applications that are built on it, right? That is what is supporting and backing up the system. Same with Bitcoin, same with so many others, with Ripple and so many others. So research, obviously, also have a little fun, I would say. That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
I think.
Yeah, Sam, you want to go? Yeah, Srikar, sorry. Yeah, Srikar, please go for it.
Sure. No, so I completely agree with Bruno and Rea, especially when Rea said that, it should be treated as stock investments. I do invest in the stock market, right? And I spend a lot of time looking at financial statements, right? Looking at annual reports. And the same should apply over here, right? You need to understand how to read white papers, light papers, to really understand the roadmap that these, folks have put in place, because that is extremely important. And that in itself is an art. And it takes some time to kind of develop that skill. So it's all about, just diving in, right? You can't learn to swim just by reading a couple of books. You need to dip yourself in the ocean, otherwise it's just not going to work. So it's just about taking that plunge. You might lose some money, but in the long term, it'll definitely be worth it. And I think all of us can definitely attest to that as well.
Yeah.
Also,
I would say you
just
don't
want to
really
add,
lose it.
yeah.
You learn a lot from it. So
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I mean, Srikar, like 2 years ago when I started, just playing around with some crypto on Aave and Maker, right? The kind of exposure I had to finance in general, not even DeFi, right? Just the finance, because I was completely naive, right? And in terms of certain basic terminology which we relate with finance, which I could not relate to before 2 years ago. And now once I started investing in DeFi protocols like Aave and Maker, that's when I started to explore, like, okay, so this is how it works, in the traditional finance that these guys are solving, right? So that actually, so I just want, you guys should just, invest in DeFi protocols more than, like proper crypto assets, like let's say Bitcoin or Ripple, because I think your Maker or your Aves or your, these protocols, they actually help you with education as well as you go by, right? The more the experience on the platform, the more is that you're exposed to how things work and the basic know-how of, how we can maneuver through Web3 going forward.
Absolutely.
Amala, you want to take that next?
Yeah, I
Your
follow
question.
with Farooq. You said correct, because it's better to invest in DeFi protocols more than crypto assets, because the in market is always fluctuating. I had some experiences. So if you have some money to throw it away, you can dip in. And because if some accident, like when China banned cryptocurrency, the all crypto went down, and when Elon Musk mentioned about Bitcoin or Ethereum, it went up. So it all about the market is all about some predictions, and more than research, there are some predictions. So don't rely upon more on cryptocurrency market. Please invest in DeFi protocols. That's the best thing. That's my opinion. Thank you.
Yeah,
Well,
Sam.
I think I'll take a contrarian approach here. So it'll be kind of opposite what Amala and Farooq say. The fact that I actually come from capital markets, I used to invest, I trade forex derivatives. So I actually do trade on the cryptocurrency market. But general, I won't say advice, my opinion, right? Please note that this is not financial advice. Is that you always only invest in things that you understand. Do not invest because your neighbor says so, your dog says so, because of FOMO, because of hype, or because you hear that someone made 1,000x on that $1 they invested in yesterday. Do not follow those. If you do not understand, then don't go for it. And just like what Rea also mentioned, put in the amount of money or investment that you can do without, that you will not lose sleep if something happens, right? So if you understand what you're investing into, right, I think you will be confident enough, even when it drops a little, that hey, I know what I'm investing into because I'm investing into a DeFi protocol. I'm investing into, say, Bitcoin because it is a digital gold, right? Or investing into Ethereum because it is the largest, most used DApp protocol in the world. So if you understand this, it'll give you the confidence when it drops, so that you'll not panic, right? So understand what you're doing before you invest. Invest only in money that you can afford to not lose sleep over, all right? And lastly, taking a book out of the leaf of Forex. You know, Forex, foreign currency, right? There are 8 major foreign currencies in the world, namely the US dollar, the euro, you know, the Canadian, and so on and so forth. So I take a look at the 1,000 over cryptocurrencies in the world in the same vein, with the same lens. There will be only 8 or less than 10 cryptocurrencies I will even bother paying attention to. I'll not look at the likes of, again, I may be in danger of offending some people. I won't look at the likes of Shiba Inu, Dogecoin, cat coins, monkey coins, whatever animal coins. You know, I can count my own red coins
No,
whenever I want.
it's going to be
Yeah. So look at only, if you want to start investing, say in cryptocurrencies, look only at the majors, namely the Bitcoin, the Ethereum, or look at the utility coins such as the payment coins I mentioned earlier on, such as Ripple, Solana, or even the DeFi protocol such as MakerDAO or your Aave, Uniswap, for example. Understand this. Look at this. Understand this before you put in the money that you will not lose sleep over. So that's my 2 cents of opinion. Back to you, Farooq.
Yeah, yeah. I don't think these guys have that much of money that they'll lose sleep over at this point in their careers. But yeah, Bruno, like, do you want to just wrap it up?
Yes.
Your take on this?
So unfortunately, I'm sorry, Amala. Me too. I have to. I'm contrary with what you say, because if you think right now, Bitcoin went down 67%. Most of DeFi coins are down below 95, 96, 97%. Most of them, because basically what the major do, all the other follow, even in a much more exponential way. Also, when you go with microcap, it's always very difficult to predict what is going to happen because of the volatility, because you don't know how they are divided the coin, how many the team has, how many the founder has, how many there are people that they're going to say, okay, I made my money, bam, I'm going to dump it immediately. So DeFi, I think, is for experts. If you are knowledge about the technology, go for DeFi, because of course from microcap, you can make those 100x, 200x, even 1000x. You can make them, especially now that we are in bear market. You buy now, in 2 years the bull run is arriving. You can make it for sure if you pick the right coin. But if you don't know what to do and you want to just put a little bit of money first, never risk more than you can afford to lose, and go for the top 5. Put your money in Bitcoin, safer than this, you don't have another asset. Because even if it will go down, it will go up much, much more than it went the last time. All the time it did like this. 2017, how much it was? 5,000. It went to 20,000. The next time, from 10,000, it went to 79,000 to 70,000. Next time, very probably, I don't know if we touched the bottom yet. I don't think so. So if we will go down a little bit, probably in 2 years, we will go to 100K, 150K. But again, not financial advice.
All right. On that note,
sorry, just one more thought. Sorry, Farooq. Bruno helped bring it up. Actually, think about if somebody just has an instinct, right, but is not wanting to do all that research. Think about crypto that are used as a transaction medium. You know, there's two trains of thoughts about crypto is as a holding investment, right? Like you buy gold and you keep it, you store it, or else as a transacting thing, like a normal currency, your fiat currency that you use, you spend your dollars, you spend your rupees, and you buy products and goods and services with it. So also look at what the world is starting to accept as a transacting medium. There are so many businesses, entities that now accept Bitcoin and Ethereum and Ripple and so many others. So look at how acceptance for these currencies are increasing across the globe. And that's a straightforward indication of how they're doing, because somebody else, another business, another company is putting their trust into them and building system and infrastructure to accept payments using that currency. So that's another way of doing it if you don't want to do all the hard work yourself. So the piggyback thought.
Yeah, absolutely.
Makes sense. Yeah, so I think that's it. I think on that note, I think we can wrap this up. And this has been so informative and so long. But yeah, it was so informative and so much fun. You know, that we all get to hear each other's perspectives, and this has been like a value bomb for you guys for sure. Like who are who've been listening to this stream. So over to the team Epsilon now. So guys, if you have any questions, just pop it on the screen, and we'll be more than happy to take it. And maybe I'll just point like panelists, targeting each question to each of the panelists. So let me do it. To call the shots here. Team Epsilon is up. It's over to you now. All right. Okay. How can you govern or administer it, maintaining the distributed nature? Okay. I think this also takes us to the question of DAOs as well, which we could not touch upon. But I think, Senika Hiroji, I think your question is probably focused more towards crypto, I guess. Then I think maybe Sam can take it. Or Srikar, I think we've had very less face time on this. Maybe I think you can take it.
I really think that maybe Bruno and Sam would be better to answer this. So maybe I'll hand it back to them and put them on.
All right. Sam, you want to take that?
Yeah.
Sam has been nothing but a doomsayer, the last 1 hour about finance and banking. So anyway, Sam, over to you.
If I understand the question correctly, that I think that is just what Farooq said. The question is more pertaining to a DAO, which is an acronym, DAO, acronym for Decentralized Autonomous Organization. So the very nature of a DAO is to exactly mitigate the concerns that Senika, you mentioned, that is to govern and administer the distributed nature, right? So what a DAO how a DAO works is that it enables everybody within the DAO ecosystem to have the equal voting rights. So nobody will have an overpowering voting right to move the entire organization. So think of the DAO as a company. Just that instead of a CEO, CTO, and all the C levels taking a top-down approach, you have everybody, meaning think of it as an employee, right? Although you're not paid in the DAO. Every participant in a DAO will have the equal voting rights to drive the direction of the company where it wants to go, right? And that essentially helps to mitigate the concerns of of say corruption, for example, or the monopoly of power. So I think a DAO essentially helps to do that. Um, I mean, takes away a lot of problems. And how a DAO does that, it allows for what they call the governance token, right? So a DAO allows for a number of participants within the DAO itself. So and the people who are able to vote and move the DAO along are the ones who are called the ones who hold the governance tokens. Again, Bruno, if I said something wrong, do correct me later on, right?
I'm gonna add something later, but you're saying
Yeah.
right.
Thank you. So the people who hold the governance token will be the one who so-called govern the DAO, right? It's not going to be one party. It's not going to be one person. It's going to be multiple parties. Because it is so many parties, it is distributed in nature. So the risks are distributed. So there will not be a risk of, say, Samuel being the majority governance token holders. I will be able to move the DAO because there will be Amala, Srikar, there will be Bruno, Rea, Farooq, and many more of you holding governance tokens. So all of you will be able to override me if the decision I make is not in the interest of the DAO. So every participant in the DAO wants to have the best interest of the DAO, whatever is the mission of the DAO. So I think that is how it can essentially mitigate the pain. I hope I answered the question, Sanika. To you, Bruno.
Yeah,
I think
you had
that
a point.
the only thing that I will add, because everything you said it's correct, Samuel. The only thing that I will add is it's basically a DAO. It's governed by smart contract. So you have the smart contract that are taking care of everything. The decisions that are made by the community are submitted to this smart contract, and then the smart contract is going to execute them. That's the beautiful thing, that if a decision is reached, a majority is reached, then that decision becomes immediately, the main core of the DAO. Maybe the only thing that I think it's still, a little bit of problem with using this kind of structure that is relying completely on smart contract is that if there is something wrong written in the smart contract, then you will have to go through a votation again to change the smart contract. And about this, I wanted to introduce, maybe for those that are listening that don't know about it, the Internet Computer Protocol blockchain. This is a new blockchain that works very differently from Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana. It is very green, and it has a mechanism that is called reverse gas fee that is allowing for users that are using an application to don't pay gas fee, but the gas fee are paid directly by the creator, that are now developing a system that is called SNS that is allowing for the creation of DAO. And the beautiful thing of these smart contracts that are built on ICP that are called Canister is that these smart contracts are dynamic. So you can change them according to what is the feedback that you are getting from your community. If people are seeing that the smart contract implemented in a certain way is not working for what is the core idea of the DAO itself, then the smart contract can be adapted to what are the suggestions of the people that are part of the DAO. And I think this is very, very beautiful to have, an organism that it's self-controlled, that it's self-managed, and that it's auto-governing himself.
Right, and
Yeah,
that
so
also addresses the security issues with DAOs, right? We've seen a lot of hacks happen, but then the time to change some of these things is way too long. So I think that's very interesting, Bruno. I've never actually heard that, but it does address that big security questions that DAOs generally pose.
also Web3 maxis
To give
like
an
Balaji
example,
Srinivasan, they are imagining countries on blockchain, like from the book that is written in network state. So like, do you think, like, do you guys, anybody think that that's possible, like having medical care, having healthcare, having pensions, having retirements and everything?
Probably El Salvador is
Entertainment.
gonna become.
doesn't
Right.
Estonia also have that? Majority of it?
Yeah, but I think this is more. I think that's not a DAO. I mean, DAO is not governing that particular entity. I think
Right,
so.
not
I'm
that.
not. Estonia is
Let me
mostly
give you an
governed by the
example,
government
right?
itself. Mhm.
Yes, let me give an example to what Bruno and Samuel hinted at, right? What they shed light on. How would it look in the real world? Everything that they said is, suppose the whole banking community, all of the banks in the country come together and form this alliance, sort of, right? So where no single bank or no even group of banks can individually control and change anything. It all has to be consensus based, and exactly what they said is um, the group effort and governed by smart contracts where it is automated and all changes are tracked. I think that is what it comes down to. So think of everything and try and put examples to it. Is think about the group of banks, think about pharmaceutical companies, right? So it is in a way a closed group, yet there is no single entity that can control or govern it or can just flip the switch off. I think that is what is critical about having those smart contracts in there.
I think that considering the centralized, position of banks, pharmaceuticals, because they are very strong and they try to pull the water only to their windmill, as we say in Italy. Basically, for them, I think it will be more ideal, instead of creating a DAO, to create a consortium of blockchain, where they're putting together all the efforts for using the blockchain technology. Like, for example, some luxury brand are already doing it, like Louis Vuitton, Prada, all of them. They already created a consortium, I think, very recently. So I think this will be more possible, because imagine a bank that will go as a DAO and will allow to the people who put money inside to take a decision. Probably it will never happen.
No, that's
so
true.
Bruno,
That's
you're
what
referring...
I was saying is a consortium. So that's another option to the question, basically.
Yes.
Yeah, and Bruno, you were referring to the Aura Consortium, I believe, right?
Aura,
Where the
Aura,
luxury
bravo.
brands.
That's the name. I was not remembering. Aura Consortium. That's them.
And and it needs to be driven by a business case, right? For luxury brands, it's about eliminating counterfeit products and protecting their brand value. And it's a brilliant use case. They can also bring elements of sustainability, sourcing, right? All of those things into it as well, and put those on the tags, which is, I think, what they're trying to do. But yeah, consortium needs to be driven by use case, and I think that is what will really help scale up some of these applications.
Okay. So I think we have time for just one more question, but I think the question before the one that we are seeing right now on the screen actually intrigued me a little. So the person asked, whether we'll have $1 trillion tokens or crypto going forward, instead of $1 trillion companies, right? Which I think Web3 maxis like me, like my good self, are really looking forward to, because that's like your middle finger to the Wall Streets of the world, right? Who think we couldn't make it. So is that possible?
We already had it. Bitcoin at its all-time high was $1.5 trillion on the market cap. So we already had it. And with BlackRock arriving in the market, very probably in 3-4 years, we are going to go more.
Right. All right, next question, guys. Yeah. Okay, as you said, Saujanya M asked, as you said, if one is not sure about crypto, don't go for it. But if we don't do it now, when will we ever know what it's like? Correct, right? So, yeah. Anyone wants to go for that?
Yeah, I'll take that quickly. We are not saying that don't go for it, which is why I think all of us, we emphasize, understand what you're doing. So in order to understand, you need to study it, you need to research, right? So you need to understand what you're doing. You may be starting at ground zero right now, but you need to take a first step. When you take a first step, you realize that, hey, I need to take a second step, and then that third and fourth step comes along, right? But if you do not take a first step, you're not going to get anywhere. So what we're trying to say is that you need to understand, educate yourself a little bit on what crypto is all about, on what Bitcoin is. If you're going for Bitcoin or if you're going for Ethereum, educate yourself. Understand that. If you're going for any DeFi protocols such as Aave, Uniswap, understand what the use case is, understand what they are doing before you go for it. And then start with a little bit of money that you will not lose sleep over. Even though Farooq said something else. But I think that is just my advice for you. I'm sure the rest of panelists will agree to that as well.
Yeah, and I just maybe want to add, right, the general disclaimer that we give that, don't maybe rely on us for financial advice. But I think, and I have this issue, which is, I do too much research, right? And I get in my head. And I think it's about for each individual to know where that limit is, just to say, hey, okay, I've done enough research. Maybe now it's time to take that plunge. And I think that is for each individual to figure out. But, I think it is important to take that plunge eventually. And you need to define that limit for yourself.
Correct. I mean, eventually you have to depend on Twitter anyway, right?
And Discord and all of these other things, right? Just hear what people have to say.
Correct. All right, then I think this has been this has been so well organized, guys. Team at Epsilon, we really have to thank you for bringing all of us together on this platform. And I think, Kirti, if you want to do the closing remarks, please go ahead. And thank you so much for having me on this particular stream. And thanks, Bruno, Srikar, Rea, Sam, and Amala. It's been, quite a morning for me. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Kirti, over to you.
Yeah, thank you so much to all the panelists for giving us the insights of the blockchain world. Hopefully, our participants must have grasped some interesting knowledge on this topic. It was an incredible session and a great start to a day in India today. We appreciate each and every one of our panelists for participating in today's discussion and sharing their expertise on blockchain with the audience. We would like to present a small token of gratitude from our side to Mr. Bruno Calabretta.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Up next, we'd like to present a small token of gratitude to Ms. Amala Bastian.
Thank you so much.
I'm assuming these are NFTs, by the way.
Is it enough?
We wish we could keep it. Next time, we'll surely do.
Oh, okay.
Go for Solana if you want to mint them.
We'd like to present a small token of gratitude from our side to Mr. Srikar Garimella.
Thank you.
We would like to present a small token of gratitude from our side to Ms. Rea Achalkar.
Thank you.
Up next, we'd like to present a small token of gratitude from our side to Mr. Samuel, sir.
Thank you. Namaste.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you to all the panelists for your valuable time. So guys, it's reward earning time now. Buckle up and summarize today's session, for which the link for submission you can access in the YouTube live chat box. We all will also be dropping a feedback link after the end of all the sessions of day 3, which will also help you earn points. Give your best and collect all the points for maintaining your rank on the leaderboard. So this amazing session has now come to an end. We thank each and every one of you for giving us your valuable time and your cooperation to be a part of Epsilon 2022. We have an outlook on cybersecurity for a forthcoming panel discussion under the CS track, where the panelists will give their perspectives on cybersecurity. We'd also like to express our gratitude to our sponsors for their support. Beginning with the IEEE MTTS, we are grateful to have them as our sponsors for the successful execution of our event. IMFS, our title sponsor, the first institution in India to provide expert coaching for exams including GRE, GMAT, SAT, TOEFL, IELTS, and PTE. IMFS was founded in 1997. They offer expert counseling sessions as well as a platform with a large and active alumni network and strong connections to more than 500 institutes globally. Next up, we have our educational partner, Aurora Coaching. The goal of Aurora Coaching is the crypto coaching firm is to inform and raise knowledge about the world of cryptocurrencies among both individuals and organizations so that both can approach it with confidence. Our streaming partner is StreamYard. On the StreamYard platform, you may broadcast over social networks directly from your browser before choosing the premium plans to gain access to more features. It provides a free option that you may test out. Thank you for being such a great audience. We wish you all the luck for your upcoming endeavors and hope to see you soon in our next session of Epsilon 2022.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you so much.
It was a great
Thank you.
session. We all enjoyed. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, guys. Have a good one.
Thank you.
Looking forward to
everyone.
your
Go,
input.
go
Thank you.
SIESGST.
Hi.
Yes.
Bye.
Good day.
Cheers.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Pleasure.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.